Thank you so much for clicking on this video and welcome to my channel. As usual, y'all can call me Twinkle, call me SheIsTwinkle, or call me Antoinette. As long as you're calling my name, that's all that matters to me. As promised, I am back to give y'all my review, rant, recap, whatever you want to call it, of Love is Blind. This is season 6, episodes 9 and 10. Episode 9 is titled Secret Rendezvous. I wonder who had a secret rendezvous. Don't worry, we'll find out by the end of the episode. Anywho, jumping right in, we have Jimmy and Chelsea. As you know, in the last episode, Jimmy left for the night, went to his apartment. He called her clinky. She had a meltdown. And at this point, Chelsea is probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is the end. We're over. She's probably panicking. But calm your little nerves, Chelsea. We see Jimmy walking right back in the next morning, kissing her on the cheek, apologizing, saying that he has to do better with his words and he shouldn't have said the things that he said. She is happy about it. They kiss and make up, and the toxic cycle will continue inevitably. But let's move right along. Let's get over to Jeramey and Laura. They're in their shared place together. They are cutting up a floral arrangement as if they're preparing to have company over. But they are having company. Right on cue, we hear the doorbell, and it is her mom, her dad, her brother, and her sister-in-law. Jeramey was not worried at all about meeting the family. In Jeremy's eyes, he's thinking, what can they not love about me? But as we know, that Laura picks at a lot of things about Jeramey, so she can point out a million things that they could possibly not love about him. And on cue, she decides to do that right in front of her family. She starts telling them about all of her pet peeves and how he wears Hawaiian shirts and she hates it. And she's saying it with a smile on her face. And Jeramey is just sitting there uncomfortable, but trying to smile and be a team player. The sister-in-law actually complimented Jeramey on his love for Hawaiian shirts. She even said she thinks that that's fun. That shows that he has personality. She wouldn't knock him for that. Laura doesn't want to hear it. Now, something that stuck out to me. Laura looks very different from her family. Very different. Her family, they are regular, down-to-earth people. They're not uppity like Laura portrays herself to be. But all right, something else that I noticed is that the family, they know Laura. They are not trying to show up and be on TV and just cape for her just because, oh, that's my sister or that's my daughter. Laura's father, her dad, specifically said in his confessional, you cannot treat her like a princess or she will walk all over you. What? So that was a first for me because what dad says, don't treat my daughter like a princess, don't do it, or she'll walk all over you. Well, that's a real dad because that is exactly how Laura is, and they know her personality style. And you can tell that they're hesitant to say much and they're just letting her talk because they're like, we're just going to let Laura be Laura and she's a lot. And if somebody wants to marry her, then great. Everything she has to say about Jeramey, they try to get her to see it from a different point of view. Laura is not seeing it. The family, they approve, even if Laura doesn't. Moving right along. Now we have Johnny and Amy, but I can't hate on the boring couple because typically the boring couple is also the stable couple, the couple that's actually in love, the couple that may actually say I do at the altar. In real life, shouldn't you want to be the boring couple instead of the couple that always has something going on and always has some type of drama attached to their name? Something to think about. Having said all of that, they are still the boring couple. They have private dance lessons, and I suppose that they're getting these dance lessons for their first dance at the wedding, so that's a good sign. Obviously, they're moving in the right direction. I'm not going to lie, I did fast forward through this part. Moving right along. Then we get to Clay and AD. We see AD sitting in the restaurant waiting for Clay. She has not seen Clay since the day before because Clay didn't come home because apparently his scheduling issues with his job just doesn't allow him to come home because he doesn't want to drive an hour. All right. Clay walks in with his mother and his sister. They are very happy to meet AD. She's happy to meet them. She has on her little proper voice with her pleasant, soft tone. But that doesn't last long because immediately AD and Clay start talking about how their schedules conflict and how AD is not okay with him not coming home. So they keep going back and forth about it in front of his mother and his sister. A part of him is not trying to compromise with her because he's like, look, this is what I've been doing. I've been doing jet ski rentals, boat rentals, Airbnb rentals. I have to drive this distance. I'm not about to keep driving back and forth. I'm just not going to make it home every night. Maybe some nights I'll try to make it, but other nights I'm going to just sleep where I'm at. Says the person that is worried about cheating. You're really not putting forth preventative measures to not cheat. You're just making it easier for yourself to cheat. Okay. Also, I've checked into an Airbnb before. The person that owns it is not standing there waiting to greet you. There is a lockbox with a key and a code combination for them to get in. If they need anything, then they can call you, but that doesn't mean that you have to be physically present there. If you're doing boat rentals and jet ski rentals, that's going to be during the daytime, not late at night. But keep up with your excuses, Clay. If AD is buying it, then y'all can have it. But the mother at some point jumps into this conversation because although she is not married, she was married for 24 years. So she does give them sound advice to let them know that marriage is hard. However, you should make time for things and people that are important to you. With the right person, marriage is beautiful. I think that the parents really show up on this show and they are the voice of reason that we always need. So I thought that was great. Let's get on over to Jimmy and Chelsea. They're at a restaurant, a bar, it looks like, and they are meeting up with Jimmy's friends. Now, for some reason, I expected these to be guy friends, but lo and behold, two attractive female friends of Jimmy's walk up. He has been friends with these female friends for 2 years. Y'all heard it correct, 2 years, not 22. So they are meeting the friends. Chelsea is excited. She's saying, you guys are so cool. They're asking her questions. One of the questions they asked her is, how do you feel about Jimmy having really close girlfriends? She did admit that initially she was uncomfortable with it. But that's because in her past relationships, she's had significant others that had close female friends and they were closer than close. They ended up cheating on her with those female friends. That's why Chelsea had some hesitancy in the beginning. She even admits that she's also close friends with her ex, so she couldn't just say, no, he can't have female friends because then she would be a hypocrite. Now, I do personally believe that Chelsea is 1000% okay with being a hypocrite, but I'm going to put that on ice because I guarantee you this issue of female friends is going to come up once again. But until then, let's focus on Johnny and Amy. We see a cute little scene of them. It's nighttime. They're in their place. She is making cookies because she's preparing to meet his family. And when I tell you this was the absolute perfect family meetup and match, there was no tension. They asked questions, but his sisters were smiling from ear to ear. They were in love with Amy. She made dinner for all of them. It was really beautiful. The dogs were out and around. They even said themselves, oh my gosh, we love her so much. And you could tell the look in their eyes. They felt like they were just gaining another sister. The sisters ultimately tell him they approve and they're ready for the wedding date. So there's no issues there with Johnny and Amy. As the scenes transition, Netflix shows us that there are 15 days left until the weddings. We see the camera is on Jeramey sitting in the front room of Jeramey and Laura's apartment. Laura walks downstairs, looks at him, and you can feel the tension through the camera. Little did we know, this sit down between Jeramey and Laura has turned into a police interrogation. And guess who is guilty? Yes. It is the pompous, arrogant, lofty individual himself, Jeramey. Jeramey had the nerve to leave their apartment the night before at 10:45 p.m. He said he was going out. Jeramey entered back into the apartment at 5 a.m. Y'all heard it correctly. 10:45 to 5 a.m. Jeramey's explanation is that he was out with some members of the cast, and one of the cast members let him know that Sarah Ann was at some type of bar called Lost and Found. At first, he wasn't going to go, but Jeramey said, I'm not going to let somebody control me. I'm going to do what I want to do. He went to the bar. He just talked to Sarah Ann in the parking lot of Lost and Found until 5 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me? What? Now, Jeramey continues to lie and says, nothing happened. I shared my location with you. If I had anything to hide, why would I share my location? Then she proceeds to respond and say, it was the wee hours of the morning. Obviously, I was asleep. He said, well, that was just my way of showing you that I had nothing to hide. I wasn't doing anything wrong. All right. Laura lets him get everything out. Then Laura bosses up. Laura says, I know that you're lying. I know that you were not in the parking lot of Lost and Found. You actually were on the south side of town. I did see your location. You were over by where Sarah lives. Now explain yourself. Jeramey is 1000% in the wrong. He got caught up in a lie. Laura is not some pushover that you can just tell her anything and she's gullible and she's going to believe it. You gave her access to your location. Did you not think that she wasn't going to check it? You were banking on her being asleep, but she wasn't. Then she gave you an opportunity to come in here and tell the truth. You didn't, and now she's confronted you. Then you admit, well, you had to give her a ride home because she didn't have a ride home, but nothing happened. Why would you take her home out of all people at that time in the morning, then expect to come home to a happy fiance? And to make matters worse, apparently that day was the day that Laura is supposed to meet Jeramey's mother. What? So Laura says, you know what, this is too much. I'm done with this. I'm out. End of episode. Y'all, let's see what happens with that. Y'all won't have to wait long. Boom. Episode 10. Episode 10 is titled What Could Have Been. And that title right there was a dead giveaway. We start off with Jeramey and his mother, and they are walking to a park to sit down and chat. He proceeds to sit there and tell his mother exactly what happened. I went out to a bar. I met this girl that I did date in the pod, and we just had conversation. I came home. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I told her nothing happened, but she didn't want to listen. I don't know if I'm engaged or not. So his mother looked at him like, okay, and you thought that was acceptable. Why? I loved his mother in this situation because she did not give him an excuse. Her exact response was, well, you're lucky that it wasn't me, because if it was me, I would have been waiting for you at the door. Now, she didn't say if she would have had something in her hand, but the way she said it, it made me feel like there would have been consequences and repercussions. That's all I'm saying. Moving right along. Now, Netflix shows us that we have 14 days until the weddings. We see a quick little scene with Johnny and Amy. It looks like they were putting together IKEA furniture. I don't know why they gave us this scene, but they thought that it was valuable. I will throw it in the trash. Moving right along to Jimmy and Chelsea. This scene was probably Jimmy and Chelsea's best scene out of this entire season. For one, Chelsea acted like a totally different person. She acted sane and normal, and she didn't nag, and she was pleasant. Why? Because they are walking up to a restaurant to meet Jimmy's family. Jimmy's family consists of his mom, his dad, and his sister. And when I tell you, they are like the cutest little family. The country twang in their voice was bleeding through. As soon as they sat down at the table, they approve of her almost instantly. You can tell that there's a lot of laughter at the table. They're getting along well. Now, the dad didn't say much during this meetup, but when he did talk, he did say that you're not going to love everything about the person that you're with, but that doesn't mean that you don't love them and it's not worth it. The dad did ask the wife how long they had been married because low-key, he probably forgot. The wife explained that they've been married for 43 years. So this is all that Jimmy has seen. That made me understand Jimmy a little bit more, and that made me question myself as to maybe Jimmy actually does like Chelsea. Maybe he just keeps working at it and working at it because he's seen his parents do it for 43 years. So I thought that this was a really good scene for them and their relationship. And the mother said that She likes her. She likes her energy. And I'm like, Jesus. All right, mama, because wait till you see the playback of this. Enough of them, on to the next. We get to Clay and AD. AD is sitting at a restaurant for lunch with her mother, waiting on Clay. Before Clay gets there, AD explains to her mother that she hasn't seen Clay since yesterday afternoon, which is very odd because she actually planned a beautiful night for them at their place, and she just couldn't wait to wow him and amaze him with it. But everything is still sitting on the counter because Clay never came home. That was alarming to me because that lets me know that Clay, he doesn't communicate with her at all. She's just sitting around hoping and waiting that he comes home. Oh, that's a mess. But all right, the mama don't say nothing about it because Clay finally shows up and the mother is just hot in the pants. She did a double take, had to turn around like, did I just see what I thought I saw? The mother is happy. And I'm like, lady, dang, calm down, hot in the pants. Anywho, he sits down. Once again, Clay starts talking about how his dad cheated on his mom and how that's really affecting his mindset and he's scared and want. This is the scene that let me know that the apple does not fall far from the tree. Let me begin by saying, 80's mom, she has no level of concern for him not coming home at night or the fact that he has cold feet when it comes to this engagement and marriage thing. Now that I've said that, let me at least get into the good that she said. She pointed out to Clay that, yes, your parents did get a divorce, but you need to recognize the fact that they were married for 24 years. That is big. She also said that there comes a time where Clay has to accept the fact that those were his parents' problems. Those are not his problems. He's self-sabotaging by making their problems become his problems. He's setting himself up for failure. He's different from them. So I thought that that was very good for him to hear because I feel like he's using that excuse of his parents' relationship as a crutch, and he's using it as an excuse to get out of this, where he's not owning up and taking any responsibility in the fact that he plays a role in this going good or bad. Now, I'm going to challenge 80's mother's stance on the fact that they were married 24 years and they persevered. I don't necessarily think that's good. And I say that because Clay said that his dad started cheating on his mother in year 7, and then they were married 24 years. So he probably cheated off and on and involved his son in it for 17 years. I don't think that you've been successful or you look at something as, look, we overcame, we persevered. If you're married, in the majority of those years were miserable. I don't think that that's something to brag about and look at the glass half full. There are people that have been in abusive relationships for years upon years where they should have gotten out and ran a long time ago. They should not have pushed through. They should have let it go. But that's just my 2 cents. And I'm not knocking 80's mother, but Clay got up to go to the bathroom at one point, and 80's mother was talking to her and saying, don't try, just do it. That is a good man, Savannah. That is a good man. He is worth fighting for. What about Clay, besides his looks? Because obviously that's what the mother saw. What about him is worth fighting for? He did not provide the mother with any more substance or any benefits as to why AD should fight for him. I don't know if the conversation was longer and Netflix just didn't show it to us, but I don't understand why the mother was just so sold on AD and Clay. But if the mother doesn't see red flags and she looks at everything as if it's rainbows and sunflowers, then of course that's why AD looks at it. AD specifically said, I will follow this man off a cliff with no parachute because that's how much I trust him and I believe in him. And I know that he will be at the bottom of the cliff ready to catch me and protect me. All right. And all I saw was, here lies AD. Because why would you trust him to catch you? He doesn't even trust himself to not cheat on you. Either way, their date ended with smiles. So if they like it, I love it. Let's meet a different parent. Let's get over to Johnny and Amy and meet Amy's dad. Now, y'all know we've been anticipating this moment because Amy told Johnny when they were in the Dominican Republic, My dad is not for this process. This is not traditional for our culture. If I don't get his approval, I'm not going to marry you. So we're expecting the daddy to like drill Johnny and be super hard on him, and for him to show up as this intimidating presence, being like, that's my daughter. She's not doing this. Y'all, let me stop while I'm ahead, because none of that happened. We see Johnny and Amy sitting on a park bench. They're smiling, they're happy. Amy has on this very conservative like dress. You can definitely tell that she is a daddy's girl and she doesn't want to disappoint him in any type of way. And her father shows up and he literally just looks like a loving, nice, sweet, big teddy bear. And he did not look intimidating whatsoever. They had a very good conversation. Johnny was very respectful, and I love your daughter, and we're doing great, and this is why I did the experiment. And it is just nothing but positivity, like oozing through the screen. Then Johnny asked her dad, may I ask your daughter's hand in marriage? May I marry your daughter? The dad has a slight second of hesitation and then says, of course, you may marry my daughter. Amy, why did you fool us? Why did you have us thinking that your daddy was like level 10 hard and he was level 2, if that? He was the sweetest little teddy bear ever. It was a great scene. Obviously, that makes me feel like, dang, they might really actually get married. Okay, cool. Let's get to Jimmy and Chelsea. Jimmy and Chelsea are back at the house, right? Chelsea just can't leave well enough alone. She can't. Chelsea is sitting there reminiscing about the day with him, saying things went so well. Jimmy says, I love you even more now that you've met my family. That was the hard part, and that went great. So Chelsea says, yeah, it's just really unfortunate that I was so cranky this morning, but I had a right to be cranky. Why, Chelsea? What's the problem now? Because y'all are in a good place. Chelsea told Jimmy that she was mad at him because the night before he told her that he was going out. Now, although he was not out very long, she said that he didn't invite her, but he went out with his female friends and that bothered her. And then other members of the cast were there. They were hitting her up via text message and they were saying, Jimmy is here. Why aren't you here? And she said that was embarrassing. That made her look bad. Mind you, Jimmy was gone for 1 hour. And that includes travel time. 1 hour. So why are you upset? Now, Chelsea's words are slurring, but I didn't know if she had had a drink, 2 drinks, no drinks. But as she continues to talk, I realized that Chelsea needs to blame it on the alcohol, because she starts saying, who were you with? Where do you go when you work? What were you doing? I know you were there with her. So Jimmy said, all right, you're fishing. I'm just not even going to pay this any attention. You need to calm down. We will talk when you haven't been drinking. That let me know, okay, this is past tipsy, Chelsea. This is word slurring, Chelsea. But Chelsea has sounded like this a lot of times when they argue. So that makes me think, do a lot of these arguments come from your love for alcohol? Just mental note. And he's like, okay, what's the issue with me hanging out with my female friends? You never said that there was an issue. If you just want me to stop hanging out with them as much or to cut that back on it, why don't you just ask me, do you want me to cut back? Do you want me to cut back? Chelsea says, yes, I do. He said, no, I will not. I said, Jimmy, you mad because you literally prompted her to ask you to take a step back just so you could reject her and shut her down. So she's mad. She's following him, and he goes into the bathroom. He's brushing his teeth because he's so upset, because that's what people do, I guess, go brush their teeth because they're mad. We see Chelsea standing outside the bathroom door with the door open, yelling at him, I know you effed her. And he was like, what are you talking about? And Chelsea was like, no, I know you did. You have before. And Jimmy is taken aback because Jimmy is like, I told you that off camera. I told you that to be honest with you up front, but it was off camera, not for you to spread her business. And I said, pause. Wait, in episode 9, we just met his 2 female friends. So you're telling me that he slept with one of them and you thought she was going to be okay with that? Every time you speak to this girl, Chelsea is going to act like it's okay, but it's never going to be okay with Chelsea. Chelsea then proceeds to say, and if you're going to be going out all the time, I can't be with somebody like that. I don't want this. Jimmy gets so frustrated. He's like, so do you think that everything I tell you, I'm just full of crap? I'm just lying to you, everything I say? Chelsea's like, well, yes, I do. Jimmy said, all right, well, I don't want to be with somebody who thinks that of me. We're done. This is over. And walks away. And we was all looking at the TV like, Jimmy got some toughness in him. Jimmy actually put his foot down. So Chelsea quickly comes to her senses. This is the fastest she's ever come to her senses. So she goes up to him and says, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Can we just talk this out? And Jimmy said, no, you overstepped my boundaries. And then the scene fades out. All right, so let's get over to Clay and AD because we obviously need a break from Jimmy and Chelsea. But nevertheless, they are filling out their marriage certificate online, which I was very shocked by. But I guess Clay figures this isn't permanent. I'm just filling out the application. Cool. And then Clay proceeds to sit down in the kitchen and talk to her once again about how he is so nervous to get married because of his dad's cheating. Clay is screaming to her, I don't want to get married to you. But AD doesn't want to hear it. Now, this is very different because Clay admits that he's been binge watching Love is Blind, which also threw me for a loop because, dude, you don't have time to come home, but you have time to binge watch the show that you're currently on and filming for. But all right. So Clay said he was binge watching it and he just feels so bad because the guys that he's seeing in past seasons, they seem so ready to get married and he is not like that. And he feels like that's unfair to AD. And I'm thinking, what season did you watch? Did you watch season 1? Are you referring to Lauren and Cameron? Are you referring to Brett and Tiffany? Those were the ones that seemed really ready, but a lot of these other guys, they have the same issues as you. So what are you talking about? AD then tells him, I'm not trying to mimic our relationship after anything you've seen on TV. Our relationship is our relationship. So then Clay takes it a step further to say, well, I mean, this is just like a day, like a wedding day. Like, is it that important? Like, do we have to do the full shebang? Because obviously Clay was confused. When he saw the episodes of Love is Blind, that spooked him. He was like, oh, shoot, we done been through this step, this step. Oh, wow, the next step really is tuxedo shopping and wedding dresses, and then we're gonna have an actual wedding. I have to say yes or no. I do or I do not. Clay is getting anxious. So he basically presents it to her. What if we don't get married? We can still continue to vibe and get to know each other, and we got a good thing going. Let's not mess this up. So AD is very calm in her response. She says, I understand what you're saying, and I'm good with you saying yes or no at the altar. However, we did both sign up for this experiment. We bought into it as well as the timeline that comes along with it. So if you were to say no at the altar, I could not continue to date you after that. I will not be a longtime fiance. I said, oh, we've never seen this on camera. Like, I think the couples have this conversation, but it's typically not on camera. So us seeing this for the first time where he was trying to present her with this option, if that did not scream, I'm not ready for marriage, I don't want to marry you right now, there's no other way for AD to hear that from him rather than him to just write it in ink, in permanent marker, and to put it on sticky notes all over the house. Somehow, AD concludes saying that she feels good about them, she trusts him, and she's ready for this next step. And when he's weak, she will be his strength. And right now, she needs to be his strength and carry him through this because there will be a time where she will need that from him. And I said, she get it from her mama. Let's get back to Jimmy and Chelsea. Chelsea walks in what looks like the next day, slow and quiet. Jimmy is sitting on the couch. He tells her that he doesn't trust her judgment after the argument because she aired out his friend's business that he wasn't supposed to. Chelsea apologizes. Somehow she tries to say that the both of them are wrong, but she knows that alcohol played a part in her end of the argument and that she loves him even more so now. He forgave her. They kissed and made up. I don't know what I'm watching, but I'm done watching them. Let's get to the drama part of the episode. If y'all didn't think that was drama, it gets worse. The cast meets up at a lake house. Okay, so boom. It starts off with the engaged women are at this lake house. They are sitting around and they're talking about how everything has gone down with Laura and Jeramey, about Sarah Ann being a floozy and all of that, and how he met up with her and did not come home till 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, this is some good tea that the girls are just soaking up. Meanwhile, we look to the left and Jeramey walks in, chipper and happy. But we just heard Laura say that she has not seen or talked to him in 4 days. But Jeramey shows up unbothered, just like butthole of the year. He sits down to talk to Johnny and Jimmy. Meanwhile, Jimmy and Johnny are not saying anything because they know they could not try that crap with either one of their fiancés. Jimmy and Johnny agreed. They name is Bennett and they ain't in it. So now we look to the left and who enters into the party? Trevor. And who noticed him first? You already know it. Chelsea did. In her confessional, she said, "Oh my gosh, look at that beefcake right there. That is a hunk of a man. He is usually the type I go for." She even lowered down her sunglasses to get a better look. And I said, "Not Chelsea. Chelsea, aren't you the one that you would literally do harm to Jimmy if he did that when he saw Jessica?" But don't worry, that was perfect timing for us to hear her say that because in walks Mackenzie and Jessica. They show up. Jessica is saying hello to everyone. She tries to go up to Jimmy and shake his hand, and Jimmy goes in for the side hug. And Jessica said, "Oh no, not the church hug. Oh, okay." And they have their little pleasantries. We see in a confessional, Jimmy says, "Jessica is very good looking. I'm definitely attracted to her." I said, "Now, Jimmy, okay, you know what? Chelsea said something about Trevor. You said something about Jessica. So that should cancel each other out. There should not be an argument." But you never know with Chelsea. I got nervous for Jimmy, but that's not where it ends. Then Clay finally shows up. He actually goes over to AD, gives her a hug, but enough of them. Then we get to Laura. Laura and Jessica are actually good friends. So when we see Laura talking to Jimmy, we already know that Jessica set her up to talk to him so that she could casually walk up and that would allow them to have a conversation with each other. That's exactly what happened. They decide to go and sit aside and have this inevitable one-on-one chat because Jessica needs some closure with their situation. Now, I am nervous for Jimmy because you know that Chelsea was watching like a hawk. Chelsea could not focus or breathe correctly without continuing to look over at Jimmy and Jessica as they have their little one-on-one conversation. Now, they had a good little chat. I won't say that it was 100% innocent, but for the most part, it wasn't too bad. You can tell that Jessica still wanted to know where he stood, how he felt about her, but he wasn't answering her questions directly. He did tell her that he does still get nervous around her. That's probably going to piss Chelsea off. He also proceeds to tell her, "I think that you're the smartest person I've ever met." Once again, that is going to piss Chelsea off. And what is going to send Chelsea through the roof is the fact that he tells Jessica, "If you give someone a portion of what you gave me in the pods, you're going to make him the happiest man in the world." And I said, "Jimmy, you want this girl to do bodily harm to you, don't you?" When Chelsea watches this, she is going to cry for days. That will be 10 never ending arguments. What? But then Jimmy puts the icing on the cake and he says, "In reality, you were my number one and you are still my number one." That made me think, okay, Jimmy, have you been smoking? Have you been drinking? Are you dry martini drunk like your fiance? Because why would you say that when you are engaged to Chelsea? Jessica, she tells him it still stings a little, but "I'm happy for you guys. I really am." And then the episode comes to a close. Yeah, I definitely felt like that was a lie. I definitely felt like even if he would have picked Jessica, they are so different. I still don't think it would have worked out. Jessica's too much woman for him, and she would have held him accountable, and he would have had to communicate way better. But either way, y'all, that ends my review for episodes 9 and 10. I will be back for a review of episode 11. So without further ado, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on your notification bell for my next video. Follow me on Instagram at SheIsTwinkle1. And until next time, I love you all. Bye-bye.